Welcome to the Startup Support Surgery podcast, where we light the entrepreneurial spark in medics and healthcare professionals. Join me, Dr. Jo Watkins, GP, business coach and co-founder of The How People, on a journey to discover where your medical know-how meets the business world. This will help you find some clarity on how to balance work, passions and family so that you can gain more freedom and control over your life, but also continue to help people, which is actually why most of us went into medicine to start with. Embarking on this entrepreneurial adventure is not easy. It is a roller coaster of emotions, but it's hugely rewarding and exciting in the process. Drawing on my 20 years of blending medicine and business as a GP, I am here to share experiences, insights and lessons. Expect lively chats, expert interviews and real-life stories from medics who have taken their own path. Let's break free from traditional healthcare norms and explore more innovative ways of making a real difference to people's health and well-being, along with paving the way for a brighter future for us as healthcare professionals. Oh, don't miss my free PDF called From Stethoscope to Startup, which is an 11-page guide in the show notes full of practical help and advice. This is your roadmap to kickstarting your journey with us. Enjoy the show. Today's episode is the third in this special series, which marks 50 episodes of the Startup Support Surgery podcast alongside International Women's Day. This series is about women building businesses in the middle of real life, not in perfect, sterile conditions. And Sophie Griffiths is a brilliant example of that. Sophie works with ambitious women who are very good at what they do, but whose businesses have reached that point where everything relies on effort, energy, and constant output from them. What she helps people do is build something much more stable, a proper load-bearing offer that creates recurring revenue instead of constant launching and hustle. In this conversation, we talk about specificity. Why the more specific you are about the problem you solve, the easier it becomes for the right people to find you, which is something I go on and on about within my programs and within any webinars that you might have been to. We also talk about visibility and that shift that many professionals experience when they move from systems where people come to them to running a business where they have to put themselves and their work out there into the world. And this can feel really uncomfortable, but it's also when things start to grow. Sophie brings a really thoughtful perspective to this. She's practical, strategic, and very grounded in the reality of running a business alongside family life. I think you're going to enjoy this one. Let's get into it. Sophie's random fact, I knew it was going to be about colour, and I always associate Sophie with leopard skin, but apparently she has a fully pink lounge. Is that correct?
I do. That is 100% correct. The walls are pink and we have like a fully built-in unit like with our TV and everything, and that is then a different shade of pink.
Nice. And you were saying you were looking pink and red together yesterday.
Yeah, one of my favourite outfits is like pink trousers. I had like a red jumper on, and I am currently in my pod, which is my garden office, which is also painted pink, which I would say, like, when I say pink, it sounds like you're kind of thinking like Legally Blonde, but actually it's more of like a dusky vibe, much classier.
Yeah, and I'm a bit of a fuchsia, and I've never really thought of myself as a pink girl, but all my slides are pink, my tops are pink. I think it's that vibrancy when you go to events as well, isn't it? No one's going to forget you. It's like, you remember Sophie? It's like, who's Sophie? Oh, the one with the red trousers and the pink top. That's it.
Exactly. Either that or leopard print trousers, one or the other.
Wonderful. Well, I'm really, really excited to have you here. Thank you so much for your time. Your time is precious. I can't remember where we first met, but we have worked together. I've been to your mastermind. You've helped me with Facebook ads with a previous business.
Yeah.
I love everything you do. So it's a real honor to have you here. So thanks for your time, Sophie.
I'm absolutely thrilled to be here. I'm very excited.
Wonderful. So we're going to kick off. For those of people that don't know you, why don't you just take us back? Because I feel like I know the Sophie story, but for those people out there that are seeing you showing up online, doing all this amazing stuff, all the things that you've got to offer. Why don't you just take us back to maybe like pre-business corporate Sophie, and just talk us through a little bit about how you've ended up where you are.
Yeah. Okay. So I went to university, got a degree in psychology, and then decided that actually, to actually do anything with that, I was going to have to do a lot more training, as I'm sure lots of your audience know about. And so I decided actually that wasn't really for me. And so I went and got a graduate job at British Airways. Spent the next 8 years there. Like, I always saw myself in the corporate world. Like, my dad works in London, like my brother was in the corporate world. Like, it very much felt very familiar. Spent the next 8 years like working my way up in British Airways, like became quite senior. So I was the head of premium for Heathrow across Terminal 3 and Terminal 5. I had a team of like 350. Like, it was a really full on job. I loved it. Like, I loved it. Then I got pregnant, which was a long awaited baby. So we'd been trying to get pregnant for quite a long time. Went off on mat leave, and then, as with probably a lot of corporate companies, British Airways used to like to reorgs quite a lot. And they had a reorg while I was off. And basically all of like the senior team I worked with, like moved on, moved off, left. And when I came to come back, they basically said, I wanted to work part-time. They said, we don't think you can do this big job in 4 days a week. So maybe it's best if you're made redundant, because, we can do that and that's fine. And at the time, I remember being like, oh, that's really logical. Like, okay, yeah, what I don't want to do is come back, feel like I can't do this job in 4 days and then end up leaving without the money. Like, may as well just take the money while it's on offer. I think in hindsight and on reflection, it was really quite traumatizing. There was no one there to really advocate for me. I was in a space where I was a new mum, I was on maternity leave, and someone telling me like I couldn't do my job in 4 days a week, like, it just really knocked my confidence. And I think, if I, hindsight's a wonderful thing, but it was really quite damaging to me. Like, it basically taught me, I think, underlying, that I couldn't have success in what I saw at the time and be a great mum, and be present for my children. So anyway, got the redundancy money, decided, at that time, I mean, this was only it was 2017 when this happened. It wasn't that long ago, but it was a lifetime ago in like the online business world. Nobody worked from home really. Zoom wasn't really a thing. Like, it was such a different world. And when I looked at like senior level jobs that were actually worthwhile in terms of salary, because if I was going to have to pay for my daughter to be in childcare full time, like, nothing was part time. And I was like, I don't want to go full time into London, like, with this long awaited baby. Like, I want to spend time with her. So decided that the only way I was going to get back to earning what I was earning before was to like do it myself. And I sort of also convinced myself, I think part of the confidence knock was that like I didn't really have any skills to offer. Like, I knew I was skilled, I knew I was good at what I did at BA, but I was like, how do I turn that into like a thing that people are going to buy online? So I decided to learn social media. And so I did a social media course. And from that point, then started to work out, how do I actually sell? Like, yeah, how do I create packages? How do I build a website? How do I have an email list? And I'm not afraid to admit that I'm a really fast learner. Like, I learn everything really fast. I did not learn how to make money fast. That took me a really, really long time.
Yeah. So at this point, there is full investment in the learning process of the skills to
Yeah.
then be able to go and monetize that to create a business. So that
Yeah.
honesty of the fact that it takes time is really important. But did you pick social media because you like had a passion for it, or you could see a need for it, or you could sort of, was that an affinity, or was that a kind of like, I know this is what's going to blow up now, and I want to follow that? Did you sort of have that instinct?
Yeah, I don't know. So I looked at it from the angle of, I looked at basically like the jobs online that you could do as a mum working around your child. And there was things like franchises, so I could like run like baby sensory. Yeah, I guess there was all sorts of different things. Like, yeah, make a lot of people made their own products, like I'll make like lip balms or like whatever. I was like, I don't have any desire to do any of those. And then I came across a company called Digital Mums, and they were really big at the time. And it was very much around like, you can do social media for other people. Like, you can sell it as like management. You can like And I just thought, do you know what? I mean, I wasn't even on Instagram at the time. Like, I wasn't a big social media person at all. But I thought, do you know what? That kind of appeals. Like, running stuff on behalf of other people, like, it kind of appealed to my like creative and like more analytical side. Um, so yeah, so that's kind of really what drew me to it. I never ever did social media management in the end. I never did it for people. I realized quite quickly that it was very unpredictable, and I was like, I don't want to be, I don't want to be responsible for whether a reel goes well or not. I mean, actually, I say that reels weren't even a thing at that point, which I know makes me sound really old. They only came in 2020. So I decided from there to use my social media skills. To the first thing I decided to build was a like online membership for mums. So it was all about bringing together trusted experts in an online platform to give mums access to, like, a breastfeeding expert and a sleep expert. And I mean, very much at the time, like, I was in it, like, it very much was like creating something that I wished I'd had. I think it probably was the biggest mistake I made. Or with that, it was a really, really great concept, but I built it before I knew if there was any demand, that if actually mums would pay for it or not. I spent huge amounts of time and energy and money building it without testing demand, without building an audience, without actually, like, verifying if people were actually going to want this. And I tried to go for a high volume model straight away. And I was just like, yeah, because it's low cost. It's fine. Of course, people are going to pay £27 a month. Like, that's outrageously good value for the amount of experts you get access to. But at the time, I didn't fully understand, like, how I mean, memberships in particular are just incredibly audience hungry. Like, you just need huge amounts of volume. I had no idea about ads. I was really quite scared of them at the time. So very quickly realized that this was not going to be a viable business. So what I actually did was then I teamed up with someone else, and we evolved it. So I had the like mum side experts. She had built a similar business, but for women's health experts. So it was like a platform for like women's health physios, and again, all the intimate sleep coaches, so all the experts, so that people within Surrey, where we lived, could find them. So we sort of merged our two ideas and created this like online women's health platform, which did really well. We did much better. We built demand. We had 200 experts sign up for the launch. This is when I really realized that actually my expertise lies more in like mentoring and coaching and training. And so we started then teaching the women's health business owners, because what we saw was that they were really great at working with like mums and like, healing someone's like C-section scar. But what they weren't great was like at the social media, at the email, at the website, at SEO. And so me and my business partner at the time created then like my first ever group program. So it was my accelerator program that we did for 6 months with people. And that's kind of where the kind of business coaching started, was there.
And now, 6 years on, that's progressed through various iterations, hasn't it? You are queen of new programs, queen of iterative processes, queen of pivots,
Yeah.
queen of, you're not shy
Yeah.
of trying something. How important
Yeah.
is that in business, like in early stage business, when people are coming into this world from a different world, so from healthcare or corporate or whatever? How important is it just to try stuff?
Yeah. I mean, it's just so important. And I am someone, like, I am your real classic, like, high achiever, type A, like, eldest child. I don't like failing. And I think what sometimes that turns into is real rigidity in, like, I've got an idea and I'm just going to like go for it and just like keep the blinkers on until it works. For me, it doesn't manifest in that way. It manifests in, like, I can see the bigger goal of where I'm going and I will not fail to get to that goal. But I am willing to do whatever it takes to get there. And I'm willing to try things and fail. And like the thing that I just repeat to myself over and over again is, when I'm making a decision, like, it's just for now, it's not forever. And really trying to let go of that idea that like every decision is something that you're committing to forevermore. It's really not. Like, it's like, okay, I'm going to do this program, I'm going to get some people in, I'm going to run it for 4 months, and then if I decide to never run it again, that's fine. Like, I don't have to ever run it again. It's just for now, it's not forever. Or it could be the thing that turns my business around. and it could be the staple that I'm running 10 years later. Like, both are fine, but you have to try it to know whether it's going to be the one or not.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think coming back to something that you said earlier, that's a sort of counter to that is if you are that rigidity around coming up with something that was what you needed 2 years ago or 3 years ago at the time. That's
Yes.
certainly something that I've historically done without doing that piece of research, which is around, is there a demand for this? Are people happy to pay for it? And how do you balance these two things? One is, making sure there's a demand for it, and the other is just getting on and doing it and getting scrappy and getting out there. That's a difficult balance, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a really difficult balance. And I think if I look back at how I've kind of built the business over time, it's like I'm not afraid to follow what people are telling me and how things are changing. So I won't kind of do something that's like totally different to what I've done before, but I'll like evolve and iterate. And it might be like, okay, this group program actually isn't filling like it used to. Like, I've just shut down my mini mind program, which has been running for the last 18 months. It's had 26 clients through. It's generated over 50K. Like, on the face of it, it's a really good program. But when I started running it, there was a real desire, I think, from my clients to just have time, more of a mastermind style of like, I just want to come with my problem. Like, you give me feedback, like, we'll move forward. Now in the online and world, people are being a lot more, I think, thoughtful about what they invest in. They want much clearer ROI. They want a much more specific, tangible outcome. And so as that evolution's happened, it's like the program just isn't quite hitting like it used to. And so I've shut it down. I've wound it down, and I've got a new program called Outrageous, which is, it's 4 months. It's much more like time bound. It's got a much more specific outcome, and it's selling much better. Even that, it's still to the same client, and it's still with the same premise. So it's just evolving the offer rather than completely pivoting to suddenly like doing like, I don't know, women's health or fitness
Yeah,
or something like
something
that. It's
completely
still the
different.
same clients,
Yeah.
on the same journey, but just a slightly different offer. So it's like pivots like that feel like they're an evolution and and you kind of are what clients want. I
Yeah.
think it's just really useful to understand that all the time.
Yeah. And it's that experimental approach, isn't it? Like, not,
Yeah.
not being afraid of getting it wrong, somebody asked me on a webinar the other day, it's almost like, how do I go about pivoting my
Mm.
niche? How do I go about, and you've just got to be brave and get out there and
Yeah.
explain and talk, it's not an embarrassment to have done something and then 2 years later wanting to do something else. Like, that is, look at my journey, look at Sophie's journey, look at everybody out there
Yeah.
that I signpost my clients to, have all had this iterative experimental process. So that's brilliant. Thank you for sharing that. I'd love to ask you a bit about like life and business. So you had a long awaited child, you've gone on to have another little girl.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you've talked quite openly about, I don't know if it's one or both of them, like having, additional needs and recognizing some of the
Yeah.
stuff in yourself. Like, your family is pivotal to what you do now, isn't it? Like, how hard has it been to build a business around a young family?
Yeah, no, I mean, it has been incredibly challenging at times. So as I kind of explained, so I had Eliza, who's my eldest. I already had her, and then I tried to start my business, and from the point of already having children. And so the goal initially for those first few years was just literally like build something that I could do in her naps, that I could do, at the weekends when my husband was home, when my mum could have her for a few hours. And I got sort of 2 or 3 years in, and it was a real crossroads point of like, if I'm not earning good money right now, if I want to earn good money, I'm going to have to make some changes here and stop doing this for the family and start doing it for myself. Because I felt, for my specific situation, I felt really, to be honest, like I was backed into doing my own business. Like, it was never my dream to be an entrepreneur. Like, I never had a side hustle. Like, it wasn't my dream, and I felt really like forced into it. And I really resented it for quite a long time. So I had to get to a point where I had to make a decision, like, okay, this business is a priority. As I said earlier, I ran the business with a business partner, and that business came to an end in COVID for various reasons. And that was when I had my second baby. So Ottilie, she was born in August of COVID. And at that point, that business had wound down. I had a baby, so I was kind of on maternity leave. as much as you are when you run your own business. And I had to make a decision around like, okay, what's next? So that's when I trained as an ads manager. And initially, again, I was really focused on how do I keep this really like not overwhelming. So I did ads management, which was very much like you do the work and then you have like one call a month with a client. So I had 4 or 5 clients. So very, very little touch points in terms of like Zoom calls and stuff. And it worked really well. But I was really lonely. I felt really like isolated. I was just like, I'm just like on a like, and these even the calls with clients, you know, they were nice, but they were literally just an hour talking about ads. Like I just felt, even I was part of some online memberships, I just didn't feel like I was really part of anything. So I went back to my roots, and that's when I started doing training and group programs and stuff. And that's really when the business started to pick up. And but that also was at the point where I started to find the balance between home life. So before, the whole business had revolved around prioritizing my home. At this point, I was like, actually, I'm doing this for me now. I want this to be a priority. I don't want to just always be the default parent. Like, I want some support in growing this if we're going to do it. And I think probably from like 2 or 3 years there, I found it really, really hard. It consumed like my mind all the time, growing an audience, being on Instagram, filling group programs. Like, it just felt like such a pressure and such a lot. And it really kind of, like you say, both my girls, so my eldest is 9 and my youngest is 5. My eldest has autism and ADHD, and my youngest, we think, probably has ADHD. I have ADHD, and I was diagnosed in 2022. So I've kind of been through that process as well, of understanding myself and this like real hyper focus. And I really used work actually to regulate myself. So I find work, I know that sounds ridiculous.
Sounds
I find
familiar.
work, yeah, I find work, like if I'm stressed or like dysregulated, feeling like the home is feeling really overwhelming, like my default is to work. Like I will literally bury myself in like, oh, I just need to do this Instagram post, or I need to do some emails, or like I need to do something that feels really productive and that I'm really good at and that I really enjoy. And it was really challenging when we didn't know that my daughters were neurodivergent. There was lots of big emotions. These, you know, we went through periods where they were starting school, and you know, it was really challenging. And the whole family was quite dysregulated a lot of the time. And the business really thrived on that, if I'm honest, because the more the home was dysregulated, the more I worked, and the more I found like the better I did in work, the better I felt about myself, but the more disconnected from the family I felt. And then it was like this time, probably about this time last year. And over those periods, like I definitely had periods where I felt really quite burnt out. If anyone follows me on Instagram, you will sometimes see me referring to like the Christmas where I broke my nose, where I was like trying to reply to an email on my phone. Again, totally, it was over Christmas. Everyone was very dysregulated. This was before we really understood how to help my daughters regulate more. And I was trying to tidy the lounge, and I was on my phone, and I tripped over a bag, and because my hands were on my phone, I smacked my nose into the door frame. And honestly, I was really traumatized by it. Like I kept feeling re-feeling it for like months and stuff. It was very traumatic on my body. And it really taught me at that point that I needed to like look after myself, but also I had to stop working for a few weeks. And even though I was doing really well at this point, I was bringing in like 10K months, like from the outside, it looked great. I didn't have any recurring revenue. I didn't have any safety. I didn't have any you know, I stopped for those few weeks, and it really massively impacted the business for like the next 6 months almost, while I tried to like build up the rhythm again. So that taught me a lot of lessons. And then last February, my husband, whose job has kind of supported me as I've like grown the business throughout, his job was kind of changing and getting a lot more stressful. The children were really dysregulated. Like we were just really feeling it as a family. And we went away last February, actually half term. And I think me and my husband realized like something has to change. And I think, you know, there's 2 options we could have gone down here. The first was that actually I could have made the business smaller. So I could have said, okay, I'm going to work school hours again. You know, they're not going to go to any before and after school clubs there. I will make myself and my business smaller to fit what the girls need. And he would have had to then, to balance out the revenue I was then bringing in, would have had to go for like a sort of director level role, knowing that he's already stressed, like that would have been more stress, but it would have given us the income we needed. Actually, what we decided was that actually what we we're going to do is I was going to continue to grow the business, because ultimately that's where I think long-term financial security for us sits, is like my business. And he originally decided he was going to hand his notice in, but they actually created a part-time role for him. So he took the kind of reduction, and his view was very much like, I had done everything over the last, like, it would have been about 6.5 years, 7 years, to allow him to grow his career and, do basically whatever he needed to do with work. It was kind of my time. And actually, like, I'm the ambitious one between the two of us. Like, he's not that bothered. Like, I'm the one that's like chomping at the bit to work. He's the one, and this is hilarious. I don't know how many people resonate with this or not, but like, I'm the one that when I'm stressed, I will sit there and work. If he's stressed, if he's dysregulated, I will find him cleaning the shower. I kid you not. When he's stressed, he will clean, and when I'm stressed, I will work. And so actually, like, he now works 9:30 till 2:30, 5 days a week, and so he's the one that sorts the kids out, that makes dinner for when I finish work, who holds a lot of the, like, he does all the cleaning, he does all the washing. I'm the one that does the finances. I'm the one that, like, grows the business. But what it's done is allowed us to, I still don't work full time. Like, I still work part time, but it's given us that, like, capacity to be able to breathe, and the kids are much more regulated for it. And I've done a huge amount of work on how do I make sure that I'm regulated in the business, and I'm intentional, and I have a team, and I have support, and I design offers that aren't just focused on revenue, that actually focus on how I want to, like, actually live my life as well. Like, I want to go for a dog walk in the morning. I want to go to my exercise classes. I want to have Fridays with no meetings, like, so I can go out if I want to. Like, and then it's like, okay, how do I create a business that then allows me to do that and brings me in the revenue I want? Because for me, it's like, it is about that long-term financial security as much as it is about my long-term health.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for being so honest and for sharing some of that vulnerability, because I know there's a lot of people who are listening to this who are trying to kind of hold it all together at the moment, maybe in that, like,
Yeah,
beginning stage of building a business while continuing with the day job, with partners working, kids all over the place, that dysregulated environment that you talk about. And I've certainly gone down many, many rabbit holes like this before myself. And I think that permission to actually, like, take that step back and say, okay, what kind of life do we actually want to live? We want one parent to
yeah,
be around before and after work. It's okay for the one that wants to work and the one that likes cleaning the shower to do that. It doesn't matter what that looks like. We can build a business that works for the life, because actually otherwise business does creep into every waking
yeah,
moment, particularly for people like you and me who thrive on what we do. It's actually really hard, isn't it, to put those boundaries into place. And it's something that
yeah,
you learn over time, and you kind of recognize in yourself when it's, I mean, I find it, I set out with good intentions, and then, I sort of find myself like, oh, I'm going off script a little bit here and I need to pull myself back. And you must work with
yeah.
lots of other people for whom this is a familiar story, I guess.
Yeah, so much. And I think so often, like, we build businesses and we, like, we see what other people are doing and we think, oh, that's working. Like, I'm going to, like, do that, without really assessing whether what they're doing is what we want to do. Like, I have almost all my clients in my mastermind run memberships. I don't have a membership because I don't want a membership. I don't want a low ticket offer that is, for me, means, like, constantly filling it, people leaving, people joining. Like, for me, that's really dysregulating. What I would much prefer is I have a mastermind that is a minimum of 6 months, and I can have 10 people in it, and that brings me in, like, six figures a year. Like, I want that kind of, I realize, I think, when I break my nose, that it's that future locked in revenue that's so important for my nervous system, so that I'm not starting each month being like, right, well, I've got a grand locked in. So if I want to hit 5K, I need to bring another 4K in, or if I want to hit 10K, I've got to bring another 9K in. and then getting to the end of the month and being like, oh, I did it, yay, well done me. And then it going to the first of the month and being like, oh my God, I've got to do it all again. Like, I need to hustle, I need to shift this, I need to be proactive, I need to like be visible. Like, so I talk a lot to my clients about like, how can we design offers to bring, like, the whole thing that I do is all about feeling safe. How can we design offers to feel safe? How can we create stability for ourselves so that we can then test on top? So like, you might not want to do, for me, let's say ads management forever, but if I have 3 contracts that I know are long term, bringing in, let's say 3K a month, actually, fine. Then if I want to launch a group program and it does well, great. And if it doesn't, okay, that's fine, because I've still got my 3K. It's when I see people like what I did, try and start a membership with no, no long-term stability, no safety, no offer that's going to give them that financial stability. Like, that's what when it becomes really, really challenging on your nervous system, and feels really consuming, because you're like, if I don't make this launch work, I'm not going to bring in any money. And then like, that is either really challenging financially, or it's just hugely demotivating. Like, I put in all that time and effort, and frankly, I mean, I used to say this all the time to my husband, I'd be getting a better like wage per hour working at Tesco's right
Absolutely.
now.
Yeah. And I think that's a challenge that I have with certainly helping clients at that beginning stage, because what you're talking about here are offers. For those of you that are sort of early on, you're talking about that, building that audience and making offers to help them with various services that you might be offering, whether it be one-to-one or group programs or memberships. But that first piece of wanting to, thinking that the answer is offering something that doesn't cost very much to lots of people is so much harder when you start off than
Yeah.
offering one-to-one support to 1 or 2 people, isn't it? It's that
Yeah.
concept. And I think it would be really helpful for you to imagine for a minute those people that you used to work with, those sort of healthcare professionals or wellness professionals going out there and starting out. What would be your kind of the first things that you would do? Because I often talk to people about obviously establishing who they want to help and then growing that audience before you offer something to them. Is that the sort of pattern that you would take, or is there any sort of top tips that you would give somebody starting out?
Yeah, why you and why them? So, and like, I'm really specifically, like, the more specific you can be, the better. So it's not, I think, especially in how like the online business world has like progressed in the recent years, like there's so many more people online since COVID, whether they work in person or whether they work online, there's just a lot more competition. And say, like, I used to work with physios, and someone who can say like, I'm a women's health physio who specializes in C-section support, is going to be incredibly busy, because everyone whose friend says to them like, oh yeah, no, I'm fine, but like my C-section scar is really sore. Oh, I know Sophie does that. Sophie is the person who's like brilliant with, oh, I had the amazing story, blah blah blah. A physio who is like, oh yeah, I do a bit of women's health, but I can also help you if you've got a back problem. And oh yeah, no, I do men's running injuries too. Like, I'll see anyone, even to the point of being like, oh, I'm a specialist in uh like back sores. Like, it has to be so specific, like, to make sure that people really resonate with you. You want to think about, if someone said their specific problem in a room, would people go, oh, that's Sophie, she does that. Like, I know with absolute confidence she's a specialist in that. So I think getting really specific, and then working out how you are going to find, like, how are people going to find you? Like, are you going to be on social media? Are you, I mean, there's 3 core ways that you build an audience. There's, you either buy it, so you run ads. You either borrow it, so you go on other people, you can go like on other people's worlds, so go on people's podcasts and that sort of thing, or you build your own. And I think the reality is, when you're starting your own business, it's very hard. You don't really want to run ads because you don't really know what works yet, and you're just going to waste money. You can't really borrow other people's because you're not known enough for you to be, or valuable enough almost, for someone to bring you into their world. There's definitely opportunities, I think, around collaboration and other people building their businesses up. I used to do a lot of like, I did a whole live series called Tuesday Tips on Instagram for like 6 months, And I just invited other people on who had similar audiences to me. So in that way, kind of borrowing other people's audiences, but orchestrating it myself rather than waiting to be invited. And then I think building your own, and just being really, really focused on who that is. And then I think the other big thing that I used to see, which I don't know if it'll be a thing for your audience or not, but is creating packages, not trying to sell like one-off things or, single sessions, or, it's a similar thing with like let's just take the C-section one. Instead of saying like, oh yeah, it's £65 a session, come back again if it hurts. It's like, okay, I recommend 6 sessions and we need to do them weekly. And then we'll review it at that point and it might require another 6 sessions. Like that's how you're going to start to build up the revenue, rather than just like waiting for people to buy things individually from you.
Absolutely. Some absolute gold in there. These are the 3 ways of building your audience. You buy your audience with paid ads, you borrow and collaborate with people, or you build your own. And that building your own bit is the brave committing to a group of people. And I always say to people, you're not tied into that group of people for the rest of your life, but that group of people who, for example, have had C-sections, perfect example, want an expert. They don't want any old physio, and they don't care whether that physio lives in an island in Indonesia or whether that physio lives in Surbiton. It doesn't matter. They want the expert who is the best person for the job. And I think that's where this online world, and you and I have both been in this world for a long time, it has just blown up, hasn't it? I mean, the Zoom of 2000 is very different from the situation now, and you've got to cut through all of that noise, which takes bravery, takes guts, it takes experiments, it takes all of the stuff that we've talked about, doesn't it, to be able to do that.
Yeah, 100%. I always used to say, like, particularly at the beginning, but even now, I mean, mindset is huge. But I used to say at the beginning, like, it felt like the most exposing thing I had ever done in my life. I used to say to my husband, like, I don't see the every, email you send at work, or like, when something's gone wrong or not at work, or like, there's no like public shame. Nobody's having to post it over Instagram. I'm having to post, I'm having to put myself out there. I'm having to say I'm selling something. I'm having to tell the world what price I'm charging. Like, it just felt so like exposing, and like this is just so challenging. And just on that speciality piece, I took a last week. That was half term for the kids, and I booked in. I had to wait 8 weeks for an appointment. I booked in with a cranial osteopath who specializes in nervous system regulation for children with neurodiversity, right? And adults as well, but specifically, she works with a lot of children. She has a brilliant Instagram that literally has like video after video of her working with these children. I drove over an hour with 2 children to have these appointments, despite there being plenty of perfectly good cranial osteopaths, who live locally to me. Not one of them on their websites references neurodiversity, autism, ADHD. I'm sure they'd be able to help, but she is so specific on her area of expertise that I spent quite a lot more money than I would have if I'd gone locally, and basically took the girls on a 3-hour round trip to go to this person. Like, that's how much I think when you're being specific. I think so many people are worried about, yeah, but what if Joe with the back pain doesn't come and see me? And it's like, yeah, but other people will move hell and high water to get to you if you are the specialist. And I think it's just really holding on to that as well.
Yeah. And sitting with that discomfort of the complete opposite of being in an NHS, having an NHS waiting room full of people that are desperate to see you, who have every problem under the sun, and 50% of them have been turned away by a receptionist before they've even come into the room. So it's stark contrast shift for most of the medics, certainly that I work with, find this piece difficult. And I know it's not just medics, corporate people in the corporate sector, anybody that runs their own business finds this concept uncomfortable until they have seen, and that's a brilliant example of the C-section and the cranio osteopath. I love it. I could talk to you forever. I just think you're wonderful. I really do. And you are a brilliant example of building a business that works for your life, prioritizing the needs of your kids, you, your husband, and building something really amazing. How do people find out more about you?
I mean, probably the best place is Instagram because that's where I live. And my handle is Sophie Griffiths Co.
Brilliant. Sophie, thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
I hope this episode has sparked some new ideas or challenged your thinking. Transitioning from medicine to business is not easy. It's about adapting our skills while embracing the unknowns of entrepreneurship. It can be nerve-wracking, but remember, you are not alone on this journey. Please feel free to reach out to me via direct message on LinkedIn or Instagram, or just shoot me an email at joe@bendylegs.com for support. And don't forget to grab the free PDF from the show notes, From Stethoscope to Startup, which is your go-to guide and resource for diving into entrepreneurship. Many thanks for tuning in. I will see you next time. Thanks for spending your precious time with me.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.